An honor for sure. I've been a youth pastor for about 15 years now, full time. I don't know if this is going to work or not. I would never go into ministry other than God called me to be a pastor and to work with students. And so I know that's probably where you are as well. And I'm not an expert on most things, and I'm not an expert in this, but we have had some success in mentoring young leaders. And so I'm going to kind of just share from my heart about that and kind of I just jotted down what have I learned by doing this over the years? And I just jotted those things down. And so some of those will maybe apply in your context and some of them maybe won't. We all work in a unique environment in our local churches and our specific jobs, but I do think there's some overlap. I'm going to read a scripture first that you are all familiar with. The first seminary class I ever took, I remember the teacher, the professor opened with this scripture, and he said, all of you, how many of you are studying to be pastors? And hands went up. How many of you want to be youth ministers? Hands went up. How many of you are going to be children's ministers? And he's like, all of your job, this encompasses what your job is about. So Ephesians 4:11 and 12, and he gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the shepherds, and the teachers. There's a plurality of gifts. There's a plurality of roles within the church, right? But they all have the same purpose, to equip the saints for the work of ministry. That's our job. In the long run, our jobs, yes, we do ministry, but as shepherds and pastors, our role is to equip others to do the same thing. So equip the saints for the work of ministry, for building up the body of Christ. Until when? Until we all attain the unity of faith and the knowledge of the Son of God, to mature manhood, to spiritual maturity, to where somebody could do my job. If I think about mentorship, sometimes I think there's two words that get mixed up and confused for one another. One is mentorship and the other is discipleship. I do not think they're necessarily the same thing, but there is some overlap there. So I'll make a little bit of a distinction there. I believe discipleship is one more mature believer training another more mature believer to understand the truth of the Bible, to understand their salvation, and to learn how to walk as a follower of Jesus, whether they're in ministry, whether they're work at the plants, a teacher, whatever. My job is I'm teaching them how to live as a follower of Jesus, and ultimately there's an ending point of that relationship where they then become the disciple maker. I see a mentorship a little bit differently. Mentorship is not as much about my life, but it is more about my specific ministry calling. Maybe they're called to ministry, maybe they're not. Maybe they just are a volunteer, and you see that they have a gift and you want to help them develop that specific thing. And I also see that mentorship is more open-ended. You might have a mentor the rest of your life. And if you're making disciples, ultimately you will want your disciples to go and just take on that role. They don't need to be under you for that long. That's kind of, I know that's a nuanced thing, but we always say that language matters, and I think, so when I'm talking about mentorship, I'm going to be talking about that. And I brought one of my mentees, Colin Kitchen, is on our college ministry staff, and began as a high school junior to work with me, and I mentored him in ministry. And so for the last 4 years, I've been a mentor to him. And so that's why I brought him today. And he can either say I'm a liar or that all of this is true at the end of this. But anyway, let's just jump into it. I've got some slides here. Number one, mentorship takes time. If you think that you want to pour your life, invest your life into another person, and so that they can do the things that you do and know the things that you know, it cannot happen once a month. It cannot happen a few hours a year. It's not realistic. Mentorship for spiritual growth and for any kind of impact will take time. And it's probably going to be a lot messier than we want it to be. I grew up in SBC churches. I've only worked in SBC churches, and I've grown up thinking and learning like that everything has to fit into these little boxes that we've pre-programmed. And I've unlearned in the last 10 to 15 years by working full-time in the church that, man, no matter what box I create, it probably isn't going to happen just inside that box. And so I'll say this: if you think you would like to take on some mentees to mentor someone, you will have to have margin in your schedule. And so, man, some of you guys are bivocational, you work a full-time job and you're pastoring or maybe whatever your case is, and you're thinking, there's no way, I have no margin. Well, if this is something that you believe you should be, man, that's your first step. Start creating some margin. Honestly, just because I needed some help, I had a girl that graduated in our student ministry, and she said, hey, can I come back as a volunteer? And I noticed that this girl named Kat was very ministry-minded. She went to the guest. When she was 16 years old, if there was a first-time guest, she went up to them and talked to them. And so she had gifts that nobody else I've ever seen had as a teenager. And I said, of course you can come volunteer, but let me ask you this. Would you want to come work? And I call them interns, just because they think that's cool. And they get a title, okay? They don't get any money. But I call them interns, and it gives them some validation. I said, would you want to come be an intern? And I'll spend time with you each week, and I'll help you learn how to do what our youth ministry does. And that's where it kind of started. And then Colin came on. We had another guy named Riley. And this year I have 5 interns that are all volunteers. Some are high school juniors and seniors or college students that either just love our youth ministry and want to be a part of it, or maybe some have been called, like Colin's called into ministry. But it takes time. I'm with them 3 to 4 hours a week. Some of it is we're setting up chairs and doing things that we do every week. But some of it is I'm just spending time with them investing. And so mentorship, it takes time. And if you're, excuse me, if you're thinking, man, this is going to be one weekend and I've got this guy ready to go, probably not realistic. The experience that you have and the things that you know in your ministry context, it will take somebody else, however long it took you to learn it, it will take them that long to learn it. And so if you think about mentoring guys to preach, you probably preach once a week or twice a week, every single week. Imagine how long it will take to mentor and train someone to be able to get to that level. And so that's just a warning that mentorship takes time, discipleship takes time. Number 2, it needs to be intentional. Hanging out is fine. Like we all go to lunch with friends and we all hang out with people in the office, but it cannot just be that. It can't just be that. It must be intentional. You must have a reason for the things that you're doing. And that takes some thought on your part way before that kind of meeting begins. And so generally when I'm meeting with my interns every week, I have, by now I kind of have a plan what I want to do, a cycle with them, but I'm thinking about it 2 days out. And I may be even working on it 2 days out. What are we going to talk about? When they show up, they expect me to have something for them. And so it takes an intentionality. It takes me like, hey, I have a purpose in this. And so being intentional there with that. Number 3, it needs to be fun. These are in no order. I just wrote these down as they came to my mind. It needs to be fun. Ministry's hard. We know that, and we sometimes have to bear the brunt of things that our mentors will not. But man, if it's just drudgery to do this, they are not going to want to do it. Generally, someone you're mentoring is going to be a younger person, mainly because they have more time, is what I would imagine. And younger people in general are more teachable. They want to be taught. And so it needs to be fun. I can't tell you how many times somebody comes across while my interns are in my office and they're like, why are y'all laughing so much? And I'm like, I don't know. It's like young people. We're laughing. We're having fun. And so, ministry needs to be fun. Serving the Lord is fun. And there are hard parts of our jobs that we all face. And there are mean people in our churches that will come across our paths. But training others to do ministry should be a joy. It should be fun. And so I would say that to you, make it fun. I take my interns, I've budgeted a little bit of money. Last year we went to Champion Forest Baptist in Houston, and I know the youth pastor there. We got a tour of the campus, which is like mind-blowing compared to anything around here. And then we went to Cheesecake Factory for lunch. One year we went bowling, and one of our interns bowled backwards and almost hit me with a bowling ball. But like stuff like that, it kept it fun because I do, like you'll see in a minute, I do give them real work to do and real responsibilities, but make it fun. Everything's better and more meaningful when we have fun doing it. And so if I can figure out how to make yard work fun, I'll enjoy that, but I haven't got there yet. So the other thing is be real. I think growing up, I thought what a good pastor was someone who was an expert or someone who was very polished and they stood out from the crowd. And for me, that's what a real pastor was. And I believe now a little bit differently. I think the number one thing that I'm looking for, and maybe people my generation and below, I'm 43, I think authenticity, someone who preaches and practices what they preach. Someone who's similar to the same person often on the stage. And so with my team, I want to be real with them. I've cried in front of them before when I'm hurting. And that's not often, but when I was hurting, I didn't hide it. When I've done wrong or made a mistake, I would say, I'm sorry. When they made a mistake, I would say, hey, that was probably not the right thing to do. And if you're taking on young, inexperienced people, you need to be willing to say that a lot. And they'll thank you for it. Last night, one of my interns had this, he was super excited about this idea, and I had to say, I don't think it's a good idea, and this is the reason why. And at first, he was deflated, but then later on, he thanked me. He said, yeah, you're right. So you just got to be real with these people. They're going to be volunteering likely. I'm guessing you don't have a bunch of extra money to hire people for this kind of role. These are probably going to be people that are just, they love the Lord and they're eager to serve. And so make it worth their while and let them know you're getting my best. You're getting the thing that I give. I'm going to give you myself. I'm going to be real with you. There's sometimes we'll shut the door of my office and I'll say, hey, we have to talk about something that is serious. And this can't be something you go talk about with other people. But you need to know about this because, man, some of the stuff we deal with is heavy. But just to be real with them. And if you're having a hard time, one time I said, hey, guys, I'm having a rough day. Can we cancel our meeting today? You can do that once or twice, but like you just be real. I think anyone who's a younger person that wants to learn, they really want to learn what you know. If they want to do ministry, they're going to look to you as the person who knows what's going on and knows how to do ministry, and that's going to be what they want. Another part of that would be clear expectations. Maybe come up with a clear thing that you want them to do. If all you want them to do is set up chairs, like just let them know, hey, I need you to come in and set up chairs every day. I don't recommend that. I recommend, hey, I need you to set up chairs, but also I'm going to teach you how to preach a sermon. And next semester, you're going to preach on a Sunday night or in our youth group on a Wednesday night. Like, I think that then, I don't mind setting up chairs. And also be willing to set up chairs with them. I tell my interns, like, anything you do, I've done 1,000 times, and I will do 1,000 more times. If you're not here, I'll set the chairs up. You know what I mean? Like, and so just being real, being an authentic person with them, being honest. And like with mine, I say, look, I want you to work here 10 hours a week. That includes you being in a worship service on Sunday morning. That includes the time you're already volunteering in our youth ministry. But we'll have a meeting once a week, and then when it comes to Hot Hearts time or camp or big events, you'll probably work more than 10 hours. And they're like, cool, I can do that. But they know that going into it, and I tell them, hey, here's what I will do. I will teach you everything that I know about being a youth pastor. And And I'll get into the why of that in a minute. All right, here we go. Give your mentees some success. Give them some things that are important, but you know they can do without ever failing. Setting up chairs, putting out snacks, making coffee. Although my interns have failed making coffee more than just about anything they've ever done. Colin can tell you some stories about that. But find something that they can do, that you know they can do, that is not like, you probably, if I asked you one-to-one, what's one or two things you do every week that you would like someone else to do? And you could tell me instantly. Those mentors, the people that you want to mentor, they likely will want to do that very thing. I got tired of doing announcements at youth. My two intern guys, Colin and Riley, they loved it. And it became just an awesome thing. They started telling a dad joke of the week. And like they made it their own thing. And it became better. And I didn't have to do it anymore. And so like that was something that they could do every week and have a success. And then, by the way, at some point they learned how to preach, and they each preached a sermon last year as well. So give your mentees some success. This one probably should have put this one first or last, because this for me is why I have these interns, why I do mentorships. I want to teach them everything that I know about ministry. I'll try to teach them about life. That's more for a discipleship group, but it happens, there's a big overlap there. But I want them to know everything that I know about ministry. If I disappeared tomorrow, I want them to be able to lead the things that I have been leading. And you might think, well, that'll never happen. Well, this summer we packed up the trailers, ready to go to youth camp. Everything was ready to go. Our team that goes and like sets everything up had gone up Sunday, and the rest of us were going to go up on Monday. And I show up on Sunday morning at the church office, and I feel a sharp pain in my back, and I have a kidney stone. And so I had to go to the emergency room, and then I looked at Colin, who was going to be like number 2 in charge of our group for camp. I said, hey man, you got it. Now, I had been training him for 3 years. I had told him everything about youth camp, and I was in no shape to even have any inkling about camp. And I said to he and a few other leaders, y'all are in charge. And guess what? They knew how to do the things that we had done, that I had trained and equipped them to do. And so there could be a day where your kidney stone comes out. I pray that it doesn't, because it was awful. Some of you would know it was absolutely terrible. But and it was super hard for me not to be at camp. But at the same time, I felt a sense of satisfaction that the people who I had mentored and trained, they knew how to do the work. So if I did leave, if I did go away, that it wouldn't just shut down. And I think all of us would say, none of us would want to say, if I left, this whole thing comes crashing down. If we're honest, none of us want that. I would say we love the people that are in those faith families and those churches and those organizations that we serve, that we do not want that to happen, right? Now, you all have individual gifts and callings, and you're there for a reason. I also learned that there's a reason God has me as the leader, right? Because like I have gifts for that. But it was also like, well, somebody else has gifts too. And so that's my goal in this. And then now what's happened is a lot of them are saying, like, I'm going to go into ministry. God has called me to ministry. And so these people that I'm mentoring now, they might be working at your churches in a few years. And so my thought process has changed a little bit. Is like, okay, could they jump into your church ministry, into your faith family, be on staff with you, and work and do the things that I've taught them to do? That's kind of my goal, has kind of shifted a little bit there. But I just started off needing some help, and I said, well, I'll just give you everything I have, and here we are. All right, a couple more things. I'll take some questions if you have them. Give them meaningful tasks. Give them easy tasks, but at some point you need to give them meaningful tasks. And by meaningful, I mean if they screw it up, everyone will notice. Okay? Let them order the pizza for the event. If it doesn't show up, I'm going to say, well, Colin, did you order the pizza? Let them have something with real responsibility. Let them lead something. And this is probably the hardest part for me of ministry mentorship, is taking my hands off and allowing someone else to lead. More than likely, I could do it better. More than likely, I can do it more efficiently because I'm experienced doing it. But the thing that allows growth, the thing that allows multiplication in ministry, is that I've trained someone and mentored someone, and now they're the ones out doing it. That's difficult. I know that because in some way, shape, or form, we're all judged by our performance. But if we believe the scriptures, and we believe, that God has created us to be a shepherd and a leader, then part of that is we've got to let the others rise up. We've got to let them kind of take those next steps. And if they fail, it's okay. I tell them, look, if you fail, it's really okay. I'm not gonna get rid of you. But if you fail in this task, it might affect other people. And so that's something that if you're going to be in ministry, you have to get to that point of that, man, my life is having an impact on everybody that's around me. I've got to be prepared to do these meaningful things. Okay, be ready for questions. This is, if you're not ready to answer 1,000 questions, then it's probably not for you, a mentorship, because I get peppered every week with questions from these young people that I'm mentoring. And sometimes it's a lot. I've had a day or whatever, and then it's a million questions. And sometimes I say, let's talk about that next week. And then sometimes it becomes the greatest teaching moments. I remember one of our meetings, I think it was you or someone came in and asked about spiritual warfare. And I was like, I don't know why, but I was ready that day to talk about that. And our meeting just went away, and we just went to Ephesians 6, and we talked about spiritual warfare and the armor of God. And it was a moment of just organic teaching that happened because we were spending that time together, and there was a comfort there. All right, 2 more, and then I'll take a few questions. Number 1, give them the how. There are some things you just need to teach them how to do. I remember my pastor in Conroe, when I first got into ministry, he hauled me and another dude named Seth, who were both rookies. He hauled us up to the baptistry, and we put on the waders, and we put on the rubber arm sleeves, and he showed us how to baptize somebody. And I thought, man, this is awkward and weird, but man, he walked us up there and showed us how to baptize somebody. And then the next week, he let us baptize people on Sunday morning. And I think that's a great example of what we're talking about. You have to teach people how. Yesterday I taught we have the 3 circle stickers that we give out to our students. And one of my interns thought he was being cute. And he said to the other one, hey, what is this sticker all about? He knew what it was about, but he was trying to be cute. And the other kid shared the gospel with him. And then he's like, I didn't do that very good. And they all looked at me. And I said, oh, okay, here's how I would say it. And so it became an evangelism lesson just because they wanted to know how I would say it, because they want somebody to ask them about their sticker on their phone. And so sometimes it's just practical things. And I think honestly what people are wanting more often than not is practical help. Someone that wants to do ministry, they want to know practically how. Someone who wants to share their faith, they would need to know how first. I bet everybody in our churches would say, I want to share my faith with people. But most people don't know how. And most people may not have seen another person do it. Mentorship allows that kind of thing to take place. And then give them the why. Here's my thought on this. The how is sometimes very difficult. Sharing our faith is difficult. I take kids to Portland, Oregon every year, and we go, Portland, Oregon. It's pretty much how you think. And we go out sharing the gospel in parks and on beaches and stuff, just public places. And it's difficult. And we teach them how to do it, but it's very hard. And the how is not really inspiring to do it. The why will inspire you to do hard things. And as you're mentoring people, you have got to tell them the how and the why. And you have to do the things you're asking them to do. If I teach them the how, then they got that. But if I tell them the why, it's like, man, if you can share the gospel here, then sharing with your friends at the lunch table is not that big of a deal. You need to own this in your faith to grow. You need to be challenged. And so when I give people the why, then the how, even though it's difficult, they might feel, they might still walk through it. Jim, how are we on time, man?
We're good.
Okay. I'm admittedly did not look at the clock. I'm going to finish with this. I got a couple of quotes. I pulled my interns last night in a text. I said, hey, I'm talking to a bunch of pastors about mentorship. What's been the biggest benefit for you of me being your mentor? And it blessed me beyond belief to read those things. But I'm going to give you a few of them. One said is, help me realize my calling. Setting up chairs, doing announcements, learning how to plan ministry has helped two of ours realize they're called to full-time ministry. That's pretty cool. One said it's a real practical way of how to live out my calling. They watch me, someone who's called to ministry and has been a pastor. They see how I live, how I operate, and they said, wow, this is how I can do it too. One said, I knew you had my best interest at heart and you helped us to get to a place where we wanted to be. Man, that's why we're pastors, I think. That most people in our congregations, they want to be closer to God. They want to be active in ministry. They want these things. We're the ones who can help them get there, right? We're able to see specifically how you lead people and an example of a faithful leader. That one blessed me. This one's one of my interns got married and had a baby, so she doesn't work with us anymore. But she said, being an intern with you has helped me be a better mom. Like, we don't know what the time we'll invest in another person, the ripples that will have in their life. She's a new mom. She says, you showed me when you lead people, you have to do more than just talking to them. You have to show them too. Like, this is a 22-year-old brand new mom. And because she spent hours with me as an intern, somehow she's better as a mom. She's better as a person. And it's not about me. You can do this in your context wherever you are. There's somebody, probably one person. Honestly, Colin is one of my interns because I would ask for help, and he's the only guy that would show up. Hey, I need help loading the trailer for camp. It'd be my wife and him. And I said, well, this guy's serious. And so I'll invest in him, right? And so anyway, mentorship, it takes time, it takes effort, there's a process, but it is so valuable. And you can multiply yourself and your ministry if you'll do so. So, all right, any questions?
Did you say age when you kind of...
So I've allowed high school juniors and up with me. And I'm looking for the thing, I didn't put this in there, the things I'm looking for, do they love the Lord? Have they been discipled? That's a qualification for me. And do they want to do ministry? Are they eager to serve? I don't care if they're skilled or not. Are they eager to serve? Like that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Did you say that they needed to be discipled before you mentored?
Yes. That's just for me. I'm working with mainly middle schoolers and high schoolers, so that's my context. But I could definitely see a scenario where I'm discipling someone and then it becomes a mentorship. You know what I'm saying? Like I could definitely see that be a real thing.
How individualized or general do you do the mentoring? It's individual. Each person gets a unique.
Yes to both.
Okay.
I have a set thing, and this is, I'm going to be honest with you, I ripped off some trainings that I've heard from other guys. Shane Pruitt did an awesome training with youth pastors that I use with my, and I give him credit, of course, but I do some basic training with everybody. But then as I figure out where their passions and gifts lie, then I will do some specific things with them. Like at one point, we had 3 interns, and one I trained to work with our Sunday morning groups. and gave them specific training there. And then one kind of helped us plan everything on Wednesday nights. And so there's both of that. One of my dudes now has a CNC machine in his shop at home. He's like, what can we do in our ministry? And I'm like, I have no idea. I don't even know what a CNC machine is, but you're excited about it. So like that's something I'm like, how can I use his gifts to create art and things? So yeah.
Do you have any like resources for some of the things you're talking about, like maybe the agreement that you have them sign or commit to? Is there any like things that are typed up?
I do have like a expectation sheet and things like that. One of the things I also do is we read a book together and discuss it. You probably all do that in your staff already, but we read The Cost of Discipleship last year with our Bonhoeffer. It was a little deep at first, but they got into it, but I tried to honestly, I thought, what's the most important book I ever read? I want them to read it. That's why I chose that. But no, we don't have any produced materials or anything like that. I do have a basic. I can send you this. It's what I've used for those who might be called to ministry. I have 4 lessons that I've kind of worked through with them. So,
just out of curiosity, how many of your mentees have gone into full-time ministry?
One so far, and he's technically part-time, but yeah. So it's honestly that's not exactly true. If I think this is from here. Mentees I've had from, there are 4 guys that I've mentored that are full-time youth pastors from my church in Houston now. And 2 of them are at much bigger churches than me. And that's pretty cool. Not that size equals, good, but it's yeah.
You try to set limits, like how many at one time you can take on?
That's a great question. I kind of am figuring that out this year. We've never had this much interest. And we had 2 kids that graduated this year who are not, to me, intern material necessarily. They're good kids. They're like, I want to be interns. And I was like, let's get you involved in our college ministry deeply first, and then we'll see. So honestly, I think about 5 is pushing it for me. It is right at the top of that level. 3 was a sweet spot for me. I felt like with 3, that was, but this year I just didn't have the heart to turn anybody away.
You put a time limit on it to go with that, where you can cycle people?
Yeah, I do ask them to agree to, because we're student ministry, a school year. And I tell them up front, I'm like, look, you might find out you're not called to ministry, and then this has still been mega helpful to determine that. Now you're going to work in the plants and be our number 1 volunteer. That's huge.